Nathan did.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It may work. I don't know if your jackets felt a little funny when I plugged it in. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay. Now, are you doing audio? Did you want to test if there's any?
No, this is fine.
Okay.
We're small, such a small
All right.
room.
Okay.
Yeah, we were
expecting.
expecting another 90 people, but they didn't show up.
All right. Well, have a good day.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Before I begin the introduction, I'm required by UT Austin's policies regarding student organizations to read the following disclaimer. Tonight's event is being hosted by the Polish Club at UT, a registered student organization. This is not an event sponsored by the University of Texas at Austin. The views expressed tonight are of the student organization / invited guest speaker and do not represent the views of the university or its officers. All right, with that said, I'm thrilled to introduce tonight's speaker, Ms. Margaret Meub. Ms. Meub was born and raised in Poland. She came to the US in 1983, right after martial law was lifted. Ms. Meub first settled in Phoenix, where she attended Arizona State University and earned a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. Afterwards, Ms. Meub attended Thunderbird, the American Graduate School of International Management, where she earned a Master of Business Administration. Now, Ms. Meub is a Technology Alliance Manager at Dell Technologies, where she manages the relationship with strategic technology partners and oversees marketing efforts. However, as we all know, the main reason Ms. Meub is here with us today is due to her incredible involvement with the Polish American community. Ms. Meub's engagement in community service began when she was just a teenager. In Poland as a youth, Ms. Meub served as a Girl Scout and volunteered at a local retirement home. Then, while living in Phoenix, Ms. Meub was a central part of the effort to build a Polish Catholic community there and to establish the first Polish Catholic parish in the city. Most recently, Ms. Meub has served on the Austin Polish Society's board of directors for several years as a board member. In spring of 2018, Ms. Meub was elected president of the Austin Polish Society and continues to serve in that role to the present day. As president, Ms. Meub's responsibilities include leading monthly meetings, overseeing APS's budget, and managing public relations for the organization. Specifically, Ms. Meub has chaired many cultural events, such as the Austin Polish Film Festival that we were just hearing about. Due to her great service to the Austin Polish community, Ms. Meub is frequently invited to events at the Polish Consulate in Houston and other events in Poland as a VIP. Ms. Meub is also a proud mother of 2 daughters, Emily, who is 32, and Alex, or Ola, who is 19, and who happens to be a member of the Polish Club at UT and with us today. Before we start tonight's event, I would like to provide everyone with a brief roadmap of how the event will proceed. Ms. Meub will speak for roughly 30 to 40 minutes about her life story and experience serving the Polish American community. She will then take Q&A for around 10 minutes. All right, with that said, I now welcome Ms. Meub.
Well, thank you, Nathan. That was such a great introduction. I appreciate it very much. And I have to say, this was a great honor. And it forced me to think sort of my life story and how I got here. And there is a path. I never really thought about it, but there is, I have to start where I was in Poland, because that sort of gives you a context of the country that I came from and the reason for what I'm doing today, really. And gosh, that was many years ago. I came in 83, I was 22. Easy calculation, I'm 60 already. Although I feel not much older than you guys. I hope I can relate in some ways. I graduated from Thunderbird just about 20 years ago, because that was a mother and a single mother, and then I decided to go back to school. That all said, just in general about myself, my Polish name is Dąbrowska, Małgorzata Dąbrowska, Margaret Dąbrowska Meub, current last name. My mother was a hairdresser. My dad was an electrician. Mom's still alive. My dad has left us about 14 years ago. And I left Poland on September 18, 1983, and came to Arizona to visit my uncle. There is a story behind it. If we have some time, I'll tell you about it, because it's kind of a fun story. Anyway, spent several years in Phoenix, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I got married. In the meantime, unfortunately, did not work out. So I started thinking about, okay, what is my next step in life? What am I going to do with myself? And what I'm doing right now is certainly not enough to at least educate my kids. That was thinking of my parents. My parents, blue collar workers. We were not rich, but we were not poor either. I've never been hungry, but we led a basic life back then, you know, by force, because we in the stores, we couldn't buy really a whole lot. So everything was sort of simple. Plus we didn't have internet, all that stuff. For fun, I read books. I hung out with my friends. I went to the theater, listened to music, right? Anyway, that's all sort of shaping the person I am today. So in Poland, I went to a technical college, got training in hotel and tourism management, came to the States, decided to go back to school, ended up doing my undergrad in Arizona State as a marketing and advertisement major. And then I decided to go to get my master's at Thunderbird, great school. If you guys, I don't know if you heard anything about it, but it's sort of international community, 64 countries represented. So it was a lot of fun. I loved it. Work-wise in Phoenix, I did some jobs when, you know, there was a process, of course, for me getting a green card. Once I did, I started working at the Hilton, just sort of following my passion for the hospitality industry. Very quickly learned that I can't pay my bills with $4.50 an hour. So I was a self-employed healthcare provider, then decided to go back to school. And once I got my graduate degree, I found a job at 3M, and they relocated me to Austin. And 20 years later, I'm working at Dell. I was with 3M for 9 years. And then once I lost my job at 3M, was 2009, when we had pretty bad recession. I think that's about the time. But then I landed at Dell, and I've been at Dell ever since. Really happy, great community. But anyway, my family, Alex, who you know, that's my older daughter with her husband. That's my life partner, my wonderful dog, Gracie. My mom, you probably see some resemblance of my sister, my two nieces. And my life passions are my Catholic faith, definitely. My being Polish and just really having that in my blood and showing it off every time I have a chance. I love to travel, and that's what brought me here in the first place. My uncle moved to Arizona. I thought, oh my God, Poland, Arizona, what a vast difference. I have to go and see what it's about. And I love cooking, and I love to eat. Love it. So that's a little bit of general knowledge. Now, like I said, for you to understand a little bit about me, I think I need to tell you what life was, where I'm from, what life was in Poland. Like, and if you guys want to stop me and ask questions, I would be happy to answer, because I would like to have you guys engaged. Hopefully it's interesting to you. I grew up in a small town outside of Warsaw, about 15 miles away from Warsaw, northeast, called Radzymin. Small town, about 14,000 population, old, got municipality rights in 1475. This place is known for one big battle. In 1920, Polish army pushed out Soviet Union back because that was when Soviet Union decided to go after Europe. So we stopped them right in that town where I grew up. And this was the first home. That's my grandparents' home. I spent their first 5 years of my life while my parents were building a house in that little town. Hello. This house is still standing. My cousins live there. So every time I go to Poland, I always visit, and brings a lot of great memories. All right. What do I remember from Poland, from living in Poland? Those are just the words, sort of, I'm sure nothing is unfamiliar to you. Cold War propaganda. I really don't remember Cold War as a Cold War. I mean, I was too young to even understand. But the propaganda is like what I heard on TV, like how bad the US is, that I remember that. Socialist government, obviously. Censorship. You couldn't really see a play, or artists couldn't be open on the stage, or everything was sort of weaved in between the lines. So you just have, like, when you watch the movie, when you watch the theater play, when you heard a poem, when you saw a comedian on stage, there was always some message there. Central economy plans, or economic plans, whatever. I remember our first secretary of the government talking about 10, 15, 20-year plans. And my parents, my dad especially, was very passionate about it. He was not, part of the Communist Party, and it always evoked anger and disappointment. So empty stores. It was just really nothing to buy. We had sort of our food that we needed, but if I went to the store and wanted to buy most fashionable coat, there was maybe one on the hanger, like the same style, so everybody sort of wore the same things. Government-owned enterprises, school, hospitals, pretty much it. PEWX that's kind of a Polish phenomenon. Those were the stores, I have a picture later, that you could go and purchase things, Western things, but you had to use Western currency. So like in a communist or socialist country, that was kind of unheard of. Poland was slightly different than all the rest of the countries in that Soviet bloc. We had a little bit, we were more rebellious, definitely, and we had a little bit more freedoms. ABBA, Pink Floyd, love those. Soccer games, Bonanza. We went to church and then there was Bonanza on TV. I loved it. And then Solidarity and martial law. I left Poland right after martial law was lifted. So I was not there when the country went through the transformation, but I certainly, my last memories of Warsaw, for example, were tanks on the street, people protesting, police shooting the gas, what are they called? Tear gas and water cannons, and I remember that very vividly. I remember the day when we got up. It was Sunday, a lot of snow, December 12th, and we learned that the martial law was implemented in Poland, and we didn't know what it was, and very scary time. Anyway, what I also remember as a student, elementary school and high school, we had to take also part in the, as students, we were basically forced to go march in the May 1st parade, carrying flags, and of course, pretending we're super happy and sort of saluting to our government. And this, the signs that you're seeing here are pretty much what we saw on the streets. It wasn't too overwhelming, but like I traveled to Czechoslovakia, and almost every corner in Czechoslovakia had Lenin portrait somewhere. Poland wasn't quite like that, but we took it out on the May Day. So that was kind of a sign of the of times. Okay. This is an interesting story. And this is where I should tell you why I came to the US. What you see here is a store with electronics. Okay. Here, long lines at the store. This is what I lived through for several years. You couldn't buy anything unless you stood in line. In some cases, I remember my dad stood in line to buy furniture overnight because there was a shipment. And of course, you were not buying something that you wanted. You bought something that they happened to deliver, right? These were talents or coupons or whatever cards we call them for rationing food. So imagine it was 1981, right before the martial law was implemented. No, I lied, I'm lying, sorry. 1983, before the martial law was lifted up. Around, I don't know, February, March time, my mom came from work and I said, Mom, can you cook ribs, spare ribs? I mean, Polish style dish, not very complicated, not very expensive. It wasn't like having a big steak. It was just very basic. And Mom said, hey, okay, take the coupon. I have like 600 grams of meat left for the month. And I saw a line standing or forming right at that store at the market in the center of the town. Maybe you can get something. Maybe you can get ribs, so I'll cook them. Of course, I take the card, go to the store, stand in line for about 3 hours. And guess what? The second person in front of me bought the last spare ribs. The store was full of people. There was still some merchandise left. And I could not hold my tears. And I want to cry when I talk about it because it always makes me very emotional. And I left the store. I did not buy anything. I got home. I cried all the way. I felt sense of, I don't know, I was angry, first of all. I felt very rebellious. I thought, how is it possible that I have money in my pocket? I went to the store, I have this darn card, and I could not get what I wanted. And I did not mention, I came to the States first time when I was 17. My uncle lived in Boston at that time. And I already knew how people lived somewhere else. So I was furious. I got home, I threw that coupon down. And my mother, of course, thought that somebody was beating on me or something. And I said, I am not going to live in this crazy country. I went to my room. I had a little notebook, like a little calendar. And I flipped the pages and I wrote down on September 18th, that was maybe like 6 months out, leaving for the United States of America. I closed it, I put it away. Comes July 22nd, that's our Independence Day. The martial law is lifted. I wrote to my uncle, hey, I'd love to come and visit you now that he lived in Phoenix. Can you please send me an invitation? And there was a special formal invitation. It was called affidavit of support. So that was stating that my uncle would take care of me and I have a place to stay and room and board. So he did. And guess when I left Poland? Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I've been here ever since. And, you know, I love this story. And I know that the way I grew up, the way my generation grew up, made us stronger, made us resourceful. My generation, people who I know, just really made something of themselves. And it was that sort of a little bit of rebellious, a little bit of, I'm going to survive. If we survive this, why would I not survive here? Absolutely. So I wanted to sort of tell you that because that's what made me who I am. But that doesn't mean that I am any less than anybody else here. And I still love my country. I love where I came from. I love what I went through because it was different. But I really never, I know that, I think, Nathan, was that your mom who was telling the story of martial law and your grandfather? I didn't go through that. I mean, I have a couple of stories to tell from but I don't want to focus there. But anyway, it was a huge experience, and I'm very glad that I went through it. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you guys. And just a couple of fun pictures. This is a meat market. You notice anything? Nothing. Exactly my point. That was the line. I could have been somewhere here. And that was the car, our first car that my parents bought. You know, the goal to come to America in 1983 is to make $10,000, save it up and go back. That car was about $500 at that time. So with $10,000, I could have bought a car, a house, furnished it, and still have some money left. And this is the most fun. You know what this is? Exactly. We were proud when we could go to the store and we happened to find toilet paper. So it's kind of funny, but it's kind of sad too. Nathan is not laughing.
Well, no, it reminds me of last year. in
There
America.
you go. I know. And this is Pevex. This is the store where you could buy foreign, Western, items, and you notice the difference. You could buy everything you wanted. You just had to have these. So you could buy either with the hard currency. Government also issued these little coupons that were like 1-to-1 with the dollar. You could purchase these, although they were limited too. So there was a huge black market for these. And that's why $10,000 at that time, because of the black market for hard currency, meant so much. It's not so much anymore. So anyway, so just to segue to today. I came to America. I'm 22. I started working. First, it was domestic work because I didn't have a green card. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. Then once I did have a green card, I worked at the Hilton Hotel. I remember $4.50. And then people would come to the front desk. And you had all sorts of different, customers and tourists. And I had some that would come and say, do you know this Polish joke? And at first I'm like, no, what is Polish joke? Do you guys know what the Polish joke is? So I heard one. And then another comes, do you know this Polish joke? No, okay. I laugh at the second or third, and then at fourth and fifth and further, I'm insulted. They're like blonde jokes. That gives you some idea. So we were supposed to be dumb Polacks. And somewhere there was this thing in me that I thought, damn it. As long as I can, like every step of the way, I'm going to show what Polish people are about. So I never ever denied I'm Polish. I was always very proud. I speak 2 other languages or 3 other languages, used to. I was very proud of my Polish heritage, and part of it translated or translates to what I do now, right? And in Phoenix, like Nathan mentioned, the Polish community started growing, so somebody came up with an idea to establish a Catholic parish. I was very instrumental in that. Once we had it, I was directing choir for 4 years, even though I didn't have any musical degree. I sang in a choir, I can carry a tune, and we didn't have that, so I volunteered my time. We had another group of people. We started producing radio shows in Polish where, you know, the key was to bring the newest news, because that was before the internet. So Polish community tuned in, and I read the news. Sometimes, depending on the occasion, I would read poetry or, you know, whatever was necessary. But we had about an hour radio show. We did things like small theater productions, and because I always had passion for theater, and reciting was sort of fulfilling that part of me that I didn't realize in life. Right, so that's what I did in Phoenix, and I came to Austin, and I mentioned that I was transferred here, and was here for a few years. And again, somebody else came up with an idea to establish a Polish community. I went to the meeting a couple of times, but I decided it's not for me. I don't have time. You know, not having time is always an excuse. So I used that one. I went to a couple of meetings. Then there was a time when I always supported the organization with the being member, paying the dues, but I was not involved on the board. And then I would say about 5-6 years ago, I went to one event in Panna Maria. You guys know where Panna Maria is, what it is, right? Mm-hmm. The first Polish establishment, which I did not know that until just relatively recently. And I go to this event, and here's a bunch of people who don't speak any Polish, have never been in Poland, but they claim they're Polish because they have Polish names. They have family that started this community, and they have Polish roots. And you know what? They were so proud. And I honestly almost brought me to tears. And I thought, here I am with the firsthand experience of being Polish, traditions. You know, I have so much to offer. What the heck am I doing? I mean, what am I not doing, rather? And then I decided, okay, time, you know, time is an excuse. It's really the passion. And that brings me why I volunteer for APS. First of all, it makes me feel Polish again. I use my language. I meet people who grew up the same way. My husband, or life partner rather, is American, so it's hard. I mean, I need that sort of that relation to another Polish human being, right? My children don't understand me really fully. They did not grow up the way I did. They don't read Polish poetry and understand it. On the flip side, I read English poetry and I don't understand it, even though my English is pretty darn good. It's just not the same, right? So that's connects me. I need it. It provides the opportunity to give to the community. It goes back to the point that I was trying to make earlier. I made a decision early on that I am going to show people who don't know Poland or don't know Polish people other than by Polish jokes that we are not dumb. I put myself through school as a single parent. Took me 8 years, but I got graduate degree. I am very proud of that. I'm very proud that I work for a corporation like Dell. I have a nice position there. So I am always talking or emphasizing the fact that I'm Polish. Brings fun too. it was fun to be at that picnic and doing sausages and stuff. Provides leadership opportunities. Oh my gosh, yes. You have a group of people, 10 of us, who don't have the same level of, they don't have the same background, they don't have the same passion, and you have to get something out of them. And that's when those leadership skills come to play. So, and then finally, I want my children to know that where they came from. And just to give you an example, at home, we celebrate holidays just like I did when I was her age. If they go to Poland today to celebrate Easter, Christmas, those are the main, really. They would step into something that they know very well, because I cook the same dishes, I bake the same things that my mother did, and we celebrate it the same way. We're Catholics, so we go to church, the same, Catholic mass is the same everywhere. So it's important to me. And I think I achieved my mission. They come back home for holidays, which was always very important to me. And now they do it because they want to, so it's wonderful. And just the last plug for us in Polish society, our mission statement is to bring that culture, tradition, history to the local community. And that's why I'm so passionate. And as an organization, we do a lot of things throughout the year. Last year, of course, for obvious reasons, was an exception. Our flagship event is the film festival, but throughout the year, we have things like Bigos Puchov competition, which is a lot of fun. We do Christmas party, we do Majówka, which is sort of picnic in the park. We do Easter egg painting. Let's see, we did have a fun show one time. I have a talent, which we invited the community to show off their talents. We had National Reading Day, because our president initiated that. So one day a year, the president reads, and actually now that's a fun event, which I actually am thinking of putting that for next year. I think it will be fun, where there is not only the president reads, but there is a whole community sort of reading. That would be a lot of fun. So I'm thinking about that. And like Nathan mentioned, I was invited several times to film festival in Gdynia as a VIP, which was great. They paid my trip, accommodation, and I was able to see all the movies and bring them back here and help organize the film festival. I'm in touch with our consul, Robert Rusiecki in Houston. Would love to get a little bit more sort of collaboration with that community too. And my goal is I would love APS to be sort of recognized in this local community. When we have an event like the film festival, for example, I'd love to have some journalists come and then see it on TV somewhere. Hey, Polish community having this film festival again. That's really my goal. I just would love for the community to see this group as a group of talented people, motivated, bringing something different to Austin. And Austin is very, it's a great place for that, right? So just to sort of wrap it up, I don't know, you guys volunteer at all? Yeah. We were doing strategy session a few months ago where somebody who also has a business background was doing the session, and he was asking everybody, why do you do this? And when I was really searching my soul, I came to a conclusion. Unless I do this out of a need, my heart need, I'm gonna fail. You can't be a volunteer and expect gratitude or expect something that people are going to acknowledge, or you have to be a volunteer because you believe in the cause. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. I put so many hours into this work. And so once in a while I ask myself, and then as soon as I ask myself, like, why am I doing this? I do it because I want to, not because somebody tells me to do it, or because there is nobody else to do it. I have to do it because I have a need, I believe in the cause, and I don't expect anything in return. Otherwise, I'm going to be disappointed. So I'm going to leave you with that. And when that candle burns down, I'm just going to gracefully step away and say, I've done this. I've done it with great pleasure, and now it's somebody else's turn. So with that, thank you so much. And thank you.
Any questions, other questions?
And if you guys don't have any questions, that's okay. Maybe I answered them all.
I guess I actually had a question, like how often would you say that you would like go to Warsaw since it was so close, like having that giant capital right there? Did you interact with it a lot, or were you staying a lot in your local town as well?
We did. So when I went to elementary school and high school in my little town. And one good thing about government at that time was education was really at a very, very high level, because the government put a lot of emphasis on being, as in at least education, being very competitive. We had to go, for example, to theaters, productions, to museums, and that was like a bus ride with all the kids. So that's number one. Number two, my mother worked in Warsaw, so I would go, if we had to go shopping, I'd travel over there, we do that. Then I went to that hotel school, the tourism school. It was in Warsaw, so I commuted. So Warsaw was a very frequent sort of getaway, yeah, for everyday needs too. It wasn't very hard.
How were you able to leave Poland while it was still behind the Iron Curtain?
Good question. When martial law was lifted, I was a lucky one, I think. That I did not have any sort of contacts in the right places. The very first time I came to Boston, I was 17 when I traveled with my grandmother and my uncle's mom. And my uncle was married at the time and had his first daughter, and he asked me to be a godmother to his daughter. So to get a passport, you had to go to literally to a police station. The local police kept your passports in somewhere, you didn't have your passport at home. You applied for your passport. They decided or to give it to you or not. Once you got your passport, you had to go to American Embassy, apply for a visa. If you were lucky enough, then you got the visa, you could go. So I was 17. I was a high school student at the time. I applied for my passport. They looked at me like I explained why I wanted to go. The police said, oh, okay, it sounds reasonable. So, okay, you go. And then when I came back, within 2 weeks, I had to come to the police station to return the passport and get back my regular ID. So that's what we did. So the first time was easy, not a problem. The second time when I was going through the same motion, because I already went to the US and came back and there was no issue, I feel like that sort of built the credibility that I would come back. So I went through the same thing, got my passport again. And right after martial law, US was very supportive. Ronald Reagan was a president, and there was a huge movement to help Poland to gain independence. And so, I feel like, anybody that wanted to come to the US was granted this visa. And sort of right time, I think. So that was pretty simple. I was surprised, but I had no problem.
And were you not allowed to come back to Poland again until communism fell?
No, I just chose not to. I just figured my visa was, I can't remember how long. I had to extend it several times. And yeah, I've never been in this country illegal or anything. And, you know, my passport eventually expired. Now I have Polish passport again. It was many years until I decided I should have my Polish documents again. So I do have Polish passport, ID, driver license. Alex has her Polish passport too. So my older daughter doesn't. But no, I never was in a situation where I was couldn't go back or couldn't stay here. Lucky. Some people did. And I was not I did not run away from Poland like some people did. Went through Austria or through different means. I just came here, you know, because I had a visa and I came as a tourist. So.
For the little ration cards, what was the process of getting a new ration card?
Oh, they were given at the place of work. So my mom and my dad received them at work. And it was just like it came with a salary. You would get an envelope with cash. And the coupon was part of that. So that's how they manage those.
When did your uncle come to the US?
Let me just think. 70. I came first time in 1978. He must have come around 1970.
And was his process of coming the same as yours, where he applied for a visa?
Very similar. He got the passport, he got a visa, and it was kind of a funny story too. Friends of my mom had a family in Boston, and this older couple had a granddaughter, and they met my uncle. I said, "We want to fix them up." that's the way it happened. So my uncle came to the States, and 6 weeks later he got married to that granddaughter. That's kind of funny. So yeah.
Other than some of the, stores being closed, shelves being stocked in the States, what other culture shocks did you experience?
Football. It was just something that I just could not wrap my brain about at all. I missed, and maybe that doesn't answer your question necessarily, but I missed the sense of community. Everything is so close in Poland because of proximity. And the American cities are so large, you don't see people on the street, you just see cars, right? And there is just no human connection. And I remember that was one of the loneliest feelings ever, especially when I came first time, everything was great, new and fun and whatever. But when I came second time, I came here to sort of to make a living by myself. I lived with my uncle for about 3 months. We could not see eye to eye at all. So I moved out very shortly after, lived with an American family, and just the sense of loneliness, it was just overwhelming, especially on Sundays, because I knew that my family was going to, at certain times, go to church together and then sit at the dinner table. And I didn't have that. I would go to a mall and sort of like, when they're trying to look for that human connection, which really you don't find at a mall, right? So that was another driver for me to be drawn to a Polish community and still am. So.
you were having a kid right now, 2021, would you rather them be born and grow up in Poland or the US?
Oh, what a tough question.
Right?
It's a big hypothetical.
I know.
What if the-
I
And
bet you
you
never, I
know,
bet you never thought that that would be.
oh,
Yeah.
we do, as parents. How many times have you heard from your mom? When I was young, you know, that was like one of the things that you don't want to hear. But there is so much, there is so much sense in this. I almost want to say it would have been easier to bring them up when I was growing up, because the pressures on you guys is so tremendous. I did not deal with drugs. I didn't know what drugs were. I've never ever tried any illegal drugs. First of all, I wasn't exposed to it when I was growing up. And you guys are bombarded with that. The pop culture just brings so many different pressures, and they're not good, if you ask me. I mean, my parents didn't have to worry about me being mobbed or using drugs or even getting pregnant or whatever when I was growing up. It was just not, first of all, the society, you had to live with the standards that were accepted, widely accepted by your neighbors, by society, right? So you sort of didn't cross certain boundaries. So it was easier to raise kids that way. On the other hand, I didn't have as many opportunities as you guys have today. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What would you say?
Poland now, I don't know, it seems pretty good.
Poland now is totally different than Poland when I grew up. We had parties. I always have been a social butterfly, and we would get together, party, dance. It was always about, you know, sitting around, talking, bragging about what best books we read, listening to music, Pink Floyd, for example, that was, you know, loved it. And, but we didn't really drink. And if I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning, my mother didn't worry about me walking through town by myself, because we had a police guarding you may have run into somebody drunk, but it really was not, it was not dangerous. It's a different world nowadays. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried.
It's all right. It's a tough question.
It is a tough question.
This isn't quite related, but I know a lot of us are learning Polish, and obviously you learn English and speak it very well. So what was your experience like with that? Did you already start learning English when you were in high school in Poland? Okay.
I was 8 when my parents signed me up for private English lessons. And I'm glad they did, because hopefully my accent is not as heavy as some of the people who started learning later in life. But I have to tell you, nothing prepares you when you're learning English, proper English abroad, when you come here, for some of the, what's the term for it? Some of the funny sayings.
Like slangs and idioms and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Somebody told me one time, I was working, and that was very early on. I was cleaning somebody's house, and this other Jamaican gentleman, he said, "Miss Margaret, you take the cake." I'm like, what does that mean? "Miss Margaret, you're on the ball today." I was like, whatever. I have no idea what that means. There's several of those, I can't remember, but anyway, those are the things. And, you know, I still sometimes struggle with that. Somebody will drop something like that, and especially when you watch football game where I have no idea what these things mean. So, you know, you always learn. I encourage you to, if you're learning Polish, to just, don't get ever discouraged. Try to read. Read. That'll help.
Is your dog a poodle?
No, our dog is a mix of Chow and maybe Husky or something like that. We don't know, but definitely Chow. She has black spots on her tongue. Yeah.
She's the cutest, most intelligent thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
if you think Rottweilers are intelligent, she's like 10 times above that. She's so good. And she still acts like a puppy at the age of 13. That's amazing.
Well, so you guys have been to Poland ever? Anybody? All of you guys? Awesome. Alex and I are going for Christmas. Alex has never celebrated Christmas in Poland, so it's going to be fun. My mom is 82, and last year, when I asked her, Mom, what would you like for Christmas? And she said, I want just one Christmas with my children before I die. So, does that sound like a Jewish mother?
It sounds like a
Guilt.
Jewish and a
Yes.
Polish mother.
Exactly. So, okay, Mom, that's wonderful.
A Jewish mother would say, come home for Christmas, or I'll kill myself.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
So guess what I did? Emily, Alex, your grandmother doesn't want anything for Christmas. She just wants us to come for Christmas. No pressure.
Keep in mind, I had originally planned a trip with my American grandparents to go to Canada, to go to Quebec, because they'd always been talking about it. So as soon as my mom came and approached me with this, I immediately called my American grandparents, who I see every single summer, thank God. And I said, I love you both very much, but this is incredibly urgent and I'm going to Poland for Christmas.
Yeah, so,
There you
yes.
Poland takes priority.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, guys. It was fun. It was fun. Appreciate it very much. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very
and I encourage you to come show up to our events if you feel like, or volunteer.
You've never seen a Polish stuff before. They are quite extraordinarily different.